Hello! Today we're going to talk about a piece of Doctor Who history that has been overlooked by many and is intimidating to more. I was watching The War of the Sontarans from Doctor Who Flux when I saw this building. For many fans, this has been a stark reminder of the famous, or should I say infamous, Doctor Who story, Lungbarrow by Mark Platt. But first, a bit of context. The original series of Doctor Who ran from 1963 to 1986. 1989. Once the series was not renewed for a 27th season, things could have ended for good, had it not been for the enormous cult following the show had. Now, many people may know about Big Finish, the company that produces the original Doctor Who audio dramas, but people might not know about the New Virgin adventure novels. But we first must travel back in time. When people think of the Doctor Who books, they probably think of the Target novelizations. These were a range of books written by authors of the serials that did air on BBC One from 1963 to 1989. Back in those days, people didn't have the ability to save the episode they saw. They had no tape recorder, no DVR, so these books were the only way people could relive their favorite stories. But even though we love the Target range, this story begins with the end of that range of books. You see, the parent company, W.H. Allen, the owners of the Target range, were acquired by Virgin Communications in 1990. That's right, Richard Branson is the reason Lungbarrow exists. Peter Darville Evans drafted the agreement, and the book range took off in 1991. These books were called the New Doctor Who Adventures. These were books written by many of the main writers of the show, like Ben Aronovich, Mark Platt, Ian Briggs, Terrance Dicks, and up-and-coming Doctor Who writers, Paul Cornell, Mark Gatiss, and Russell T Davies. Also, Kate Orman, Doctor Who's first regular female author. These were meant to be a straight continuation of where the show left off. These books, although well written, were truly written for fans who had immersed themselves in the classic series and wanted more. As a result, they were very self-referential. Also, these books were much more mature, and dealt with themes the television program could never have. And in my opinion, they went far too dark. Let it be said, if a story is better told with graphic or explicit elements, I'm all for it. But including gruesome murder just to be edgy, or including sex for no purpose but just being mature, isn't worth it. There are around 60 of these books, and this paired with the comics in Doctor Who magazine was Doctor Who in the early 1990s. The practical finale of the range with the 7th Doctor is Lungbarrow. The story is long and confusing, but I read it so you don't have to. I'm going to make a quick disclaimer here. The BBC has never tied itself down to one canon or narrative for Doctor Who, so this could have some truth in the show, or none. I'm looking at this due to the obvious inspiration that Chris Chibnall might take from regarding the origin narrative that he is building, including Swarm and the Division and the Timeless Child. The story is a deep dive into the past of the Doctor, and the culmination of the Cartmel Master Plan. A plan to make the Doctor more mysterious so the show is more interesting. The Doctor and Chris are pulled off course intentionally by the TARDIS to visit the Doctor's familial home, the estate of Lungbarrow. This leads us to the Doctor's family. Let's see what the book has to say about how Gallifreyan families are formed. Now, this is where the lore gets deep. You gotta stick with me. A long time ago, two beings named Pythia and Rassilon fought for domination of the planet Gallifrey. Rassilon was successful and overthrew Pythia, but she had one final curse. She, using the Sisterhood of Karn, made all Time Lords infertile and sterile. The Time Lord race was doomed. Rassilon had created regeneration so that the current Time Lords could live 12 more lives, but they desired to have a legacy. This led to the third founder of Time Lord Society, only known as the Other, to create organic houses and looms. A loom was a Time Lord device that reconstitutes or creates a new Time Lord through a process that can be described as super advanced cellular weaving. The Time Lords were born already with an adult body, but they took about a year or two to be properly educated and matured. These looms were located inside houses, which were alive and conscious, like TARDISes, but more sensitive. In each house, there was a Kithriarch, a head of the house, and a housekeeper, who tends to the house itself. I compare these positions to how in Middle-earth there is a king of Gondor and a steward of Gondor. The story of Lungbarrow finds the Doctor and Chris return to the Doctor's ancestral home, but everything's in disarray and almost cursed. The 6 cousins who are left are living in fear and are very cutthroat in their ways. The Drudges, wooden guardians who are extensions of Lungbarrow itself, are always lurking, and the house has trapped everyone who is left. The Doctor is forced to confront what effects leaving Gallifrey had on his family, and the Doctor finally confronts his own shame and the secrets of his past. But he learns that there have been murders, and most in the house think he is to blame. Even the Doctor's companion Chris, who is having psychic connections to the Doctor's dreams and memories, is doubting whether or not the Doctor is a good man. The book paints the Doctor in a very different light because it is told from the point of Chris, who is an onlooker into the Doctor's dreams and jumbled memories. From this point, if you want to read it for yourself, watch no further for plot spoilers. There's a huge mystery as to who murdered the Kithri Arquensis, and it looks a lot like the Doctor did it. It is later revealed that it is Glospin, who used up 2 regenerations to look like the Doctor, just to frame him, to take his inheritance in the will. The last big twist in this whole story is that the Doctor was loomed into existence on the very first Otherstide. Otherstide is a Gallifreyan holiday to celebrate and commemorate Rassilon chasing away the Other. However, the greatest twist of the book is that on that very day, the Other tried to commit suicide by throwing himself into the central chambers of the looming compound on Gallifrey, only for him to emerge in the House of Lungbarrow, reloomed with no recollections of being the mighty Other, who would later be known to steal a TARDIS and take the name of the Doctor. In the end, the House of Lungbarrow is so filled with grief and despair it throws itself off a mountain. People have compared this to the Timeless Child, saying it is too revealing of an origin for the Doctor, but honestly, where Lungbarrow restricts, I would say the Timeless Child expands the mythos due to the fact that there was only one life for the Doctor before the first Doctor, and the Doctor realizes who they were before doesn't change who they are now. Lungbarrow will probably not be canon through the Timeless Child arc, but you never know. At the very least, its influences can be felt throughout the revived series. In Chapter 2, Leela of the Sevatim recalls a Timeler who got angry at her named the Curator. In Chapter 3, Chris has a vision of women veiled in white and brown standing in a sacred position, and a black-veiled old lady who reeks of flies and rotting flesh. The Doctor has a dog-like best friend named Badger, who is his guardian. Kinda reminds me of Carvanista. The Doctor and the Widow in the Wardrobe's wooden king was based off of the Drudges. The living house that eats people in Knock Knock is reminiscent of Lungbarrow. Doctor Who is so large and vast, it references itself unintentionally in the most incredible of ways. I doubt the Other will be confirmed to be the Doctor in Flux, but I do think the ancestral home, and maybe even the disturbed family, might make an appearance. Recently on Twitter, someone didn't know that the Doctor was the president of Gallifrey, and was berated by several fans who were cruel to them. As a fan, it is our job to support any and all people who want to enjoy what we enjoy. If you can't do that, ask yourself, if you were a beginning Doctor Who watcher, and you didn't really know something about the second or third Doctor, how would you feel if somebody said you weren't a real fan, or treated you as if you were a fool? You're on the other end of that now. You don't need lore to make you feel important. In the community, we support and respect each other. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Just because someone has seen all of something, that doesn't make them a bigger fan. How you behave makes you a bigger fan. Also, the mystery and the adventure is why we like Doctor Who, not the copious lore. If you don't believe me, take it from the author of Lungbarrow in his chapter notes for Chapter 34. So here we are at the end. Well, it was an ending of sorts. By now I've ticked off everything on my list of things that need explaining or linking with the movie. The Doctor is such a personal thing, different for each of us. One person's Doctor treads on the toes of someone else's. In Lungbarrow, some things need saying, and others, even others, were better only hinted at. Or to quote Alice, which dreamed it? You pays your money, and you takes your choice. The Doctor had to face his past and put it behind him before striking out into the future. So the end is a beginning too. The first of several new beginnings. New Doctors and new old Doctors. The ride never really stops, does it? It's been a little odd going back over Lungbarrow and realizing, despite my efforts to improve some sections, how much I still love and care about the story. I've traveled a long way with it. And now, thanks to Daryl's amazing paintings, I even know what it looks like. Balancing nostalgia for the past with hopes for the future is what writing Who is all about. The old stories are a great place to play in. but it's finding a fresh slant and surprise that are important. And that, if anything at all, is the whole point of Lungbarrow.